Any bills?
No bills.
Any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Anyone want to discuss any files? I'll start with Mellow, Hall Street, since how we were just talking about it. Kevin was out there, he had an issue with the hay bale line being, a piece of it being non-existent, some pipes being on top of it. I called Aaron Mello, spoke to him about it. They took care of the one spot that there was a breach in the hay bale line, but when I drove out back, I found another area that I was unhappy with. Called him back, and there's a crossover pipe at the base of the driveway that dumps into that drain and goes across the street.
Right, yeah.
On the left side of the driveway, that's where the breach was. On the right side of the driveway, they just have a hole, and there was nothing protecting the end of the pipe. So when I called them back the second time, I told them I wanted that to be stoned in and some hay bales put around it to stop erosion, and that the back hadn't been done. I went out on Saturday, and there was a guy out there putting the hay bales, fixing all the hay bales everywhere. So it was taken care of, part of it immediately and part of it as a follow-up. Anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Hit the nail right on the head.
Okay. There was one other thing, there was 2 pieces of concrete pipe on top of the hay bales, which I asked them to remove, and Kevin just informed me that that has been done. Walmart, the new Walmart. We've had a couple of issues.
We'll have copies of the letters.
What day was I out there?
26, that's it. Should say that.
27.
Okay. Did everyone have a chance to read this letter?
Yes.
Okay. I went out there, they were gonna use stone and wire mesh and put it over the catch basins. I did not feel that 2 to 3 inch stone was going to be sufficient to stop any kind of siltation from entering the system. The system has a 30-inch pipe in it. The catch basins are all in, and they all run to the retention pond. Therefore, because it starts, even if it starts 500 feet away and it ends up in our retention pond, we do own jurisdiction over it. I asked that there was an email that I sent out, Gail sent out for me, that was requiring them to surround every inlet with a row of hay bales. This is the response to the email that was sent out requiring them to do it with the hay bales. And they're basically telling us that hay bales are no good, that they deteriorate. Well, they have 2 or 3 times a day, they have a guy that does nothing but drive around and check the hay bale line to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the hay bales. I just read this email this afternoon, and it didn't make me happy. If we require someone to put hay bales around an inlet to protect it,
It's part of the conditions.
it's the way it is. So, therefore, everybody's up to speed as to, I'm gonna put a call in to Jack Reed from Walmart, explaining to him, I have actually already called and said that if we require hay bales to be put around something or another type of siltation to be installed, we expect it. We don't expect a letter back telling us that our way's wrong and that they're gonna do it their way unless they hear from us again. They've already heard from me. So I would request at this point that this board just ratify my decision to install hay bales around all inlet structures to protect them. So if anyone could
I
make,
just have a question, Bill. So you're saying that our recommendation of the hay bales is a better method for handling this situation than with their either proposal one or proposal two?
Yeah.
From Walmart?
Yeah. Proposal one, you'll see the stone, 2 to
Yep.
3 inch stone.
Yep.
You start stacking 2 to 3 inch stone together, you got big holes in the middle.
That's not gonna stop.
So silt's just gonna run right through it. Even in a septic system, they'll use 1.5 inch stone
Okay.
around the pipes.
Yeah.
And then they cover the whole system with 3/8 because that'll protect it.
I mean, the hay bales around the catch basins, the last one we did like this that I can think of is the monastery or mosque, or whatever it is down on South Street,
Oh, yeah.
when they did the parking lot area,
The temple.
the battery place. We've always done it that way, hay bales around
Hey,
it.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know,
I mean, if you look at this with the concrete blocks,
yeah.
there's a space in between each concrete block.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not achieving anything that way.
No,
So you put a piece of filter fabric over the catch basin, and you put the hay bales around it.
Okay, all right, that's why I asked the question. I
Yeah,
just-
no silt gets in that way,
How long are these hay bales gonna be up?
till they're done.
Into construction.
Okay, that's what I thought, because the way they're talking, that the hay bales aren't gonna hold up. These guys are talking about
Replace
it's gonna
them.
be there for years,
Well, I think there's another, and once they get the pavement down, yeah, but until that point,
Yeah, so it shouldn't be an
I
issue.
make a motion that we send a letter to Walmart telling them that's our policy, the Raynham Conservation Department is for hay bales around the outlets, the catch basins, rather,
well, any
during,
inlet
during construction.
I'll second.
with a piece of filter fabric
Yeah.
over the structure.
As they were instructed initially, okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Site visits if necessary. Issuance of an order of conditions for Mass DOT Route 2444, 138, I-495. Do we have that ready for
We have the
signatures?
order, but my computer was being temperamental today. So I couldn't email Gail this so that she can attach it to this.
Okay,
So it'll be okay to sign it, and then I'll give it to her right now. And if I cannot email, then she can just PDF it, scan this in, and attach it.
okay. Sorry. One place?
But you gotta go to issue though. You have, how we
Okay.
did last meeting was
I-
to close the hearing.
Gail,
All right,
what color?
all right, can I have a motion to issue this order of conditions to Mass DOT?
Second.
Somebody got to make the motion first.
Oh, I thought you made it, I'm sorry.
I'll
Make a motion that we issue the notice of intent for Mass DOT.
Order of conditions.
I'm in order of conditions for Mass DOT Route 24, 44, 138, 495.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Discuss issuance of certificate of compliance for 291 Orchard Street, David Peachy. I have personally looked at this property, and I think that the grass has come in good and everything's stabilized at this point. Anyone else?
I looked at it about 4 days ago, it looked great.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion that we,
Issue a COC and remove and waive any fines that have been, huh?
That was previously voted by the commission.
Okay,
in recognition of the fact that they have complied with the
Okay.
the enforcement order, and whereas the commission imposed a fine as an incentive, not necessarily as a punitive measure.
Did you say?
unless the Peachies don't want us. Do you have anything to say? No, that's okay with you?
All right, then I will do the paperwork and have it ready for the next meeting for
Okay.
signatures.
We have that
All right, so,
motion?
Motion's been made.
second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
You're all set?
Doing a good job. Good night. Thanks.
Take care.
Good night.
That silt fence,
Whoops. Whoops.
if it's in your way, you can take it out. If not, wait till spring.
Yeah, it's not in the way.
Okay,
All right, no problem.
thank you.
I don't know if you want to do the Army Reserve thing, or go to the formal.
We can skip that for now, I think, and then we'll just move on to the formal. So we need,
So,
we have a continued discussion for a notice of intent with Brian Shepley, 505 South Main Street.
you have to read the
Yeah,
You're on.
You gotta read.
Read it.
this is
Did you
mine.
have
This is
your
yours.
formal now?
Just shine your mouth. Look good. Come here.
We don't have, has this been published and everything?
Well, no, we're gonna discuss
We're gonna
his,
reopen.
Mr. Shepherd, the DEP wouldn't issue a file number, and I'd asked him to submit a bunch of paperwork. I called Mr. Keller, Dick Keller, the DEP. He called me back when I was gone, and then he went on vacation. He'll be back Tuesday next week. So what I'm suggesting is that we table the notice of intent, because it's really, from DEP's perspective, it's incomplete filing. The commission had required that as part of their enforcement order, so that you can impose conditions. But also, if in fact it'll prove expensive for Mr. Shepley to hire somebody to follow through with the notice of intent, then perhaps keep the fine in place until he complies. But the work can be done as part of the enforcement order, and the commission can withdraw its requirement for a notice of intent. I mean, I don't see.
Restored.
Huh?
If it's restored to its previous.
Right, meaning we could require that. The purpose of allowing a notice of intent or mandating a notice of intent was Mr. Shepley had wanted to do some work beyond just restoring the area. But if the EP is requiring him, is gonna mandate requiring a full-blown plan, and instead of putting that money towards doing a plan, just conform to the enforcement order and call it a day.
Can you step up to the mic? Step up to the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Brian Shepley, 505 South Main Street.
Would it be your request to table the notice of intent and just be required to remove the gravel and turn it back into lawn, or do you wish to go forward?
I'd like access to my backyard.
Okay,
Originally, there was no curbing there.
yep,
They put a curbing in, which changed my elevation by 8 inches.
okay,
I went to remove my camper from the backyard, and when I did, it hung up. And
okay.
it ripped the underneath right off it.
Okay, so your preference would be to be able to wait, see what DEP, we'll deal with DEP next week, see what they require, and then you can make the determination
Okay.
whether it's feasible or not.
Okay,
Is that what
I'm
you're?
fine with that, yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, so, motion to table this,
A motion to table to our next meeting in 2 weeks?
Second.
give us enough time.
Date, and time specific. We need a date instead of
Why
just
don't-
on this.
why don't we do it for a month then, because,
Because then if he's
He
gonna
would-
be able to do the work, it's gonna be, might be getting too cold. Right?
yeah, but if he has to if he has to advertise and everything,
Right, but
will he have time to get it in for the next meeting in 2 weeks?
no, he wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't necessarily have to do this immediately.
Well, we
enforcement.
have siltation devices there holding
Right.
it, so,
So then we need to wait a month.
okay, what's our first meeting of next month? 7th? So we'll table this until,
Until November 7th.
Even if you fill your yard side, how are you gonna get the camper up over between the road and the sidewalk curb?
so you have to do a curb cut.
You'll have to do a
too.
curb cut, and is that a state road
That's
or
a
a
state,
town road?
that's a.
It's
No, that's
104.
a state, it's well, having a route number does not necessarily make it a state road. You can, that portion, if that is maintained and owned, maintained and by Mass Dot, then it'll be a state highway. They might have turned that section over to the
Yeah, I
town.
don't know who owns it.
They have turned, I've gone to the state and they have turned it over.
So it's right.
So you
Yes.
gotta get a curb
So
cut.
it'll get a curb
You'll have
cut
to go
from
through the
Roger.
town.
So I have to go to Roger Stoughton.
And that's over 5 years now, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
The
well,
cost is gonna keep going up. Just keep that in mind.
I don't know if this is worth it.
well, this will give you a month to figure that out.
Yeah.
It'll give you 2 weeks to figure it out. If
Right,
you're gonna
because I
file a
wanna
notice
talk to
of
DEP on
intent.
Tuesday.
Just a couple things I wanna weigh in before you make a decision.
Yeah.
Keep in contact with Azu,
Yeah. Here's my number.
and when you hear something, when you figure something out in the next week or so, get back to him, and you guys keep working on it.
Okay.
Just note, remember though, the fine stays in place until this is all resolved.
Okay? All right, so
Does
we
it
have a
continue to
motion?
add?
Hmm?
Does it continue to add?
Mm-hmm.
If you stop dealing with us, yes.
Okay.
But it all gets, when this is all done and resolved, they can, just like they voted to
Rescind that
rescind
one.
that one.
Yeah.
It's just the big stick that they are carrying, that's all.
Okay.
And it's getting bigger daily.
I make a motion, we continue it to our November 7th meeting.
Give him some more crayons. The motion's already been made, we need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's been made
I
and
apologize.
seconded, yeah.
I apologize.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
it's unanimous.
I'm just gonna leave now.
Oh, no, you're gonna sit in the corner.
All set, Brian?
I'm just gonna leave now.
Get your hearing aid.
Okay,
Get your hearing aid from there.
all right, listen, let him read. You need to read everything, Paul.
The opening statement and then the notice of the public hearing, okay. All public hearings, meetings heard by the Raynham Conservation Commission on Wednesday, October 3rd, 2012, at the Raynham Conservation Commission, in the Veterans Memorial Town Hall, Donald McKinnon Meeting Room, 558 South Main Street, Raynham, Mass., relative to the filings and joint hearings and/or meetings under the Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Raynham Wetland Protection Bylaw. Notice of a public hearing. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Raynham Local Bylaw, the Raynham Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 3rd, 2012, at 5:30 p.m. in the Donald L. McKinnon Meeting Room in the Raynham Veterans Memorial Town Hall at 558 South Main Street, Raynham, Mass., on a notice of intent filed by Patriot Recycling Corporation, P.O. Box 240, Southeastern Mass. 02375. The applicant proposes a soil screening, asphalt, brick, concrete, and shingle recycling operation that would be located no less than 25 feet from a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant also requires review and approval of a delineated vegetated wetland line and associated resource areas. The property is owned by Massasoit Greyhound Association Incorporated and is located at 1958 Broadway, Raynham, Mass. 02767, Assessors Map 1, Lot Number 19.
Okay, before we can open this hearing, we have some technical difficulties that you have to clear up with Gail.
Tear sheet, green cards. And just as a note, there has not been a DEP number issued yet.
I checked that just before I left the office, and I haven't come in yet.
Okay.
I think a copy of the notices in the map as well.
Yep.
cut sheet.
Very good.
And a receipt that shows that it's
Excellent.
completed.
Very good.
So they're okay with you?
They're okay with me.
Okay.
You should
You're gonna
send
step
that to
up?
those people that are doing
Yeah.
South Street, so they know how it is done.
We'll go there in a minute,
The
Isaac.
story continues, trust
Yeah.
me.
Kevin, you want to turn your microphone around just to catch them? You state your name.
My name is Michael Quattromoni. I'm with SciTech Environmental. We're engineering and permitting consultants for Patriot Recycling. This is Chris Connie and Gwen Reagan, both of Patriot Recycling. And we filed the notice of intent for, it's actually an ongoing operation that's located at the track, 1958 Broadway. And the notice of intent was filed for activities that occur within the 100-foot buffer zone to some adjacent wetland areas, as well as within areas that have been designated as ACEC and under the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. SciTech has gone out and done a detailed wetlands delineation, and we've represented that on the site plan, and we've had all the flag locations surveyed. So we know the boundaries of the wetlands, and they are very, very consistent with a line that we had done back in 2005 for the RDA that we had submitted for essentially the same activity. The activities have expanded somewhat. At the asphalt, brick, and concrete operation is a little bit bigger, mainly outside the buffer zone. And they've also introduced the crushing and grinding of asphalt roofing shingles. It's another recycling program that Patriot has implemented, and they are approved through the Mass DEP to conduct both operations. Essentially, the materials come in, and any debris that might be within the asphalt shingles load is removed, mainly for recycling, because usually it's gutters and downspouts and that type of thing, or wooden pallets. And then a grinding operation takes place here. I would say that all of the grinding operation and material processing operation takes place outside the buffer zone. It's essentially the material stockpiling that has a tendency to be within the buffer zone at different times. It's an ongoing operation. Material comes in, material goes out. So there is activity that takes place, heavy equipment, travel down along this northwesterly side of the property. When we came before the board previously, and based on site visits that had taken place, Patriot was asked to go ahead and move things back, and let's make a little bit of a buffer zone area, and to also establish a berm, a protective berm right along the limit of the cleared area. In some areas it's close to the delineated wetlands flags, but other areas it's considerably further away. It's essentially at the tree line. And that berm was made out of ground tree stumps, as was recommended, and it's essentially been completed. And I think Glenn just recently added some additional material up at the very north end to close off this area here. This is actually where the topsoil screening takes place. There's a large pile of soil. It's mixed. It's got boulders and stuff like that, but they screen out the topsoil at that location to make a material that's suitable for resale. But then the pile of excavated material with the boulders is here. But the screening operation is conducted at the north end, with the concrete crushing operation down at this end and the asphalt shingles down there. So Patriot's gone ahead, and there were some piles that were very close to the delineated line, and especially this pile of ground asphalt shingles, and they cut those back and moved some other material that was in there, some processed material. And they've created, it's at least 15-foot wide, was showing a 15-foot travel way. It's actually quite a bit more than that in most locations, just because of where the piles are. But for all intents and purposes, at least 15 feet will be maintained on the inside edge of this created berm, so that they can get in there periodically and make sure that the berm is maintained. And that's going to be a permanent fixture. and it'll also serve as a good visual barrier as far as the operation itself. And the berm will provide filtration of any runoff that comes off the site. There's really two areas that we know of where the runoff tends to leave the site, and that's right at this location and then again up here at the north end. And there actually happens to be some precast concrete blocks at both locations, and they were done back in 2005 as part of the RDA. They asked that we put something substantial at those two locations, and we had hay bales at one point that were in there. So that's what we're looking at, is the stockpiling of material, the movement of material within the 100-foot buffer zone. I mentioned that, as far as other resource areas, I did not check off on the notice of intent ACEC, and Azu caught that, and I sent in a revised page where I did check that off. That line is here. It runs right through the center of basically the operation. And we established that line from MassGIS, which is really the standard process for doing that. We also did the same thing for the NESHAPs, the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program. That's how we established these lines. And the lines go right through the middle of the property. They cross over Route 138. They go all the way up the other side, encompassing everything on the far side of 138. And so everything to the north is also within these same zones. And we know that this area right here had historically been used as a parking lot when the racetrack was in full operation. And there's still, I think we talked about it at the last hearing, there's still a lot of remnants and evidence that that is the case. As far as the lighting, and there's still remnants of the guardrails that were out there. And there's some pretty good photographic evidence that's available that shows that going way back, this area was a paved parking lot. And Chris had brought in a photo. We had done a little bit of research, and we went quite a ways back, and we were able to show that it certainly is and has been used for that purpose. And I think that establishing these lines might have been with a bit of a broad brush. I don't, off the top of my head, know the date when those lines were established, but clearly this area had historic use that was associated with the operation of the track. I think the pavement is still in place, and that over the years through these operations, now there's a gravel surface on it. And so in terms of doing activity within this area, I don't think that anything that is going on here, I don't think that anything that's going on here is affecting what would be realistically considered an area of environmental concern, nor would it be impacting an area that would be considered as a habitat for any endangered species. There's an endangered species identified with Hockomock Swamp, without a doubt. There's probably multiple, and they don't like to tell you what they are. But they're associated with a certain habitat, and the habitat is marsh, and it's a thriving marsh out here. It's an excellent habitat, but I don't think that those same species would find this area here habitat. And historically, I don't think they would have found a paved parking lot habitat as well. So in terms of, the actual designation of these two lines, ACEC and NESHAPs, to me it seems like it should parallel the wetlands line right along the edge. So whether or not it's possible to get those lines changed, I don't know if it takes an act of Congress to do that or exactly what the process is, but I don't see that as really an option at this point. But based on the historic use, this operation and previous operations is not affecting any particular wildlife species as far as I'm aware, or the actual ACEC that you would consider with the Hockomock Swamp, which we've defined by our wetlands delineation. other areas. There are some upland areas off to the side, and those are still wooded. And there's no intention of going any closer than where that berm is right now. And that berm is essentially going to set, any area that any of this activity will take place. And they'll maintain that travel way so that it can be inspected. Anyone could drive down there. You can drive down there in a passenger car. But it's also wide enough and accessible for a front-end loader to take additional ground material to build up the berm if that's absolutely necessary. And they will do that. They'll inspect it periodically to make sure that it stays in good condition. They'll keep an eye on the stockpiles themselves. If there's anything that appears as though it may be more susceptible to erosion, they'll take some precautions with that. If a material is more fine-grained and, as I said, might be susceptible, very easy to put a ring of hay bales around the bottom of the pile to keep things contained until that material gets moved out. It's a constant in and out of material as demand for the material arises. And they do process a lot of this type of material, and they do ship a lot out for reuse. And the material that they're producing is a recycled product, and it's used in roadway construction projects, site development projects, and I believe it's been approved by Mass DOT for some use in actual highway projects. And it's a base gravel type material and usually gets paved over. So it's a sub-base material for pavement, and that's the type of material that they're creating. The asphalt shingles, the ultimate goal for that is to incorporate that and blend it with the crushed asphalt, brick, and concrete. It offers a finer material so that the material will compact better. It also has some adhesion to it, so it will go down as a nice dense gravel base prior to pavement. And approval for that use is still pending through the DEP, but what they are currently approved for is to take that material in its current ground form and bring it to an asphalt batch plant. And it's a desirable material for them because they're able to incorporate that into new batch concrete. And so that's the activity that's going on now. The material that comes in, there's a little bit of debris in it. They pull it out manually or mechanically. It goes straight into roll-off containers, goes off-site for disposal. There's recycled products that come out of those loads, like as I mentioned, the gutters and downspouts, and that's a valuable commodity for recycling as well. And that goes to a materials recycling facility, to a scrap metal dealer, and so that gets recycled. The clean wood pallets get recycled. So there's a lot of recycling associated with this operation, and as I mentioned, the activity that's going to be or is currently within the buffer zone is just that. It's stockpiling and the handling of material. I think that concludes what I had to say.
I just have one issue I gotta bring up. I don't know if direct it to you, I guess. I sat on a citizens committee 5-6 years ago that opposed one of your other projects. Do you have a problem with me asking questions here?
I don't know. Doesn't matter to me.
All right, thank you.
Okay. That's clear. I love this plan. Dave just got crayons tonight. And you got trucks and loaders and excavators and all kind. My daughter's gonna love this. It just it works out so good.
Is there a plan in place for observing the two areas that are most susceptible for runoff?
Because I'm assuming like after a good rain, there's gonna be some good runoff caught in the mulch areas. The berm.
We haven't had it yet. I've been watching it, because we have the 2 extra piles he has to have on site, and, we haven't had to do anything.
Correct. No,
Yeah.
that was my only concern is just,
Is it concern?
if you're driving down there once a day, especially after good rain, especially when you know those two runoff areas are more susceptible to the buildup of sediment. Just keep an eye on
To where?
it. All of a sudden you see a lot, go there, the loader scrape it up, drop some chips down. good to go.
We've got extra material on site, like Chris just said.
All the way around.
This is one of those things where
Very close.
25 no touch is hard to
That's normal
maintain
procedure for
Yep.
us.
because
And they
it's
can bring
already
the
in
mucked out
existence.
saturated material far enough away, up into the upland area, up, for farther enough away so that doesn't present a problem.
You'll see light towers behind them.
I just have one question on wetland flag 135. You have a culvert pipe.
Yes.
Is that an active pipe or?
I've never observed a discharge from it, and I think that it may be associated with the former parking lot area that was used here,
Okay.
but I don't recall seeing any discharge from that pipe. And
That-
it's
that would be my
probably
only
buried
question.
quite a bit.
That'd be my only question for the whole thing would be, is that an active discharge? And is it gonna pick up anything, not, let's say here, but above that,
Right.
and wash it into the piles?
Yep, I don't believe that anything from the major parking lot drains there, because I know that the major discharge for the parking lot is at this location. So there may be a catch basin that's historically been covered, it may have been blocked in.
Okay.
So it's not something that's currently being utilized as a drainage feature for the site. So it's probably so old that it has feet of material over the top of it that would prevent, a
Okay.
flow of
You found the
runoff
pipe
from
and
it.
you haven't noticed any discharge?
I haven't seen any discharge,
Okay.
but I could check during a rainfall event. But
Very good.
I doubt strongly that there is an actual discharge from it,
Yeah.
just because of the amount of material and the amount of time that's taken place.
You have two existing stormwater collection areas that I see. What is an existing stormwater collection area?
It's a low spot, basically.
Okay.
And it's really those two locations where we would expect to see ponding to occur
Okay.
as a result of having, set that berm. And for runoff leaving, the actual operations area, that's where it would take place at either one of those locations.
Okay. Paul had a question about the locations and stuff, and pretty much when we went out there the first time to deal with this, where you see, what I want to do. Get to use it. Right there, Paul?
Yep.
That pile was back up
Over, yeah.
quite a ways.
Right,
Where the
sure.
line is,
I show it dashed,
Yeah, right, I can see where the.
so it's moved back.
so it has been cut back.
And there was another pile that was pretty close. I want to say it was this one, right?
Right.
Is this the one with,
Yeah, that would be the one. Yeah.
okay. They've moved these piles to give us this 15-foot buffer. That 15-foot buffer gives a loader enough room, because of the way this berm is built, to turn into it,
Okay.
add more material as necessary. When you get into these low areas, they can drive through there and see if there's an issue. I did, up on this end the other day,
Yeah.
the berm wasn't complete up and through here.
Right to the fence line?
Yeah.
Right.
So I called Mr. Reagan, and that was taken care of, correct?
Correct.
The next morning. So I've observed what has been done all in through here,
Yeah.
and I was very happy with the way it was working.
Okay.
I think that this berm can be freshened up as opposed to hay bales that they think they're still okay and we may think that they're not okay. This way, this berm is supposed to maintain 3 feet high, the whole length of it. It's pretty easy to decide. It's 2.5 feet high, we need to put some more stuff
Yeah,
on it,
okay.
you know what I mean?
And this is hopefully a long-term project,
Yeah, right.
so,
While the business is in operation.
Right.
That berm's gonna be maintained.
Do we want to stipulate a
Regularly and
once a month
maintain.
maintenance?
Yeah, I put down I think once a month isn't enough. I think that it has to be, during operations, it should be ongoing, you know.
That's right.
And after a rainfall event,
check it out, and I would expect that they know that we can show up at any point and walk out there, so always think that we're coming around the corner.
That's a way.
Pretty much, I mean, I want a
the green
report.
light to show up anytime, as you know you do, and that's the way we run the business is, you know.
As part of an order of conditions, I would expect a report once a month. I would expect that that report would show weekly inspections of this the berm that's out there, whatever you want to
so
call
as
it.
an ongoing.
Which just means, I mean, no matter what order of conditions you get, it shows, in the order of conditions, it always says every 30 days, monthly reports. It can be done email. Just send an email that says on January 1st, 7th, 14th, 25th, whatever. I checked it.
Check the integrity of the firm. from
Yeah.
what I-
He doesn't have to check it. You guys can check it. It just needs to be done.
He's got enough money of ours.
Or if you create just a plain regular form that you're gonna use every month. And just check the box. Date, checked it, looks good, or date, added some, you know, in this area, added some. Email, scan it, email it to Gail, whatever.
Because we may find that in those stormwater collection areas, maybe it's not working. You know what I mean? And you may say, hey, it's not working here, but it's working everywhere else. We need to switch to hay bales in this area, or silt
Or back
fence.
up behind it.
Or something, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, but it's just, it's trial and error, we'll
Yeah.
see how it reacts.
I mean, this was basically done because of the environment and the working that was going on, and the fact that somebody that I've heard about this system, but somebody that I've been dealing with on another project said he couldn't believe how well it worked. And that's from the construction end of it.
Right, right.
So, you know, it wasn't something that I read in a book and said, let's try this.
Yeah, so,
He's got deep pockets, let's go for it, you know? It was more, I think it can be a win-win.
Honestly, on the EC line, is there anything
No, no.
we need to be concerned about with that?
No, it just says that they are within the ACEC. If there was any new activity proposed, then they have to submit a copy of the notice of intent to the Department of Conservation and Recreation. Because that's his state office that now administers work, you know, activities in the ACEC, right? But they are not actually in the wetlands. And it's an existing active site, but at least that needs to be noted on the form, just in case they do more work. But they don't really need to do anything.
Dated copy of the plans.
The plan for record.
Does yours have it?
Yeah, there's a date, September 20th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I got it, I'm sorry, it is there.
It's in-
It's right there.
regulation.
All right. Usually, sign it right there.
All right, does anyone else have any questions from the board?
Will the material that's being processed now ever change? Like, are we gonna start processing scrap cars? You know, recycle, that's,
Asbestos.
you know, that's what, you know, right now it's asphalt shingles, ground up asphalt and, concrete.
ABC,
Brick.
asphalt,
Right,
brick,
okay.
Usually red brick.
So I just.
And you have loom on site?
Loom on site,
Right.
I just didn't know if it was gonna ever expand to anything further.
We actually don't even do the loan, I let a guy just come and go. But hopefully, he's gonna make it shrink it so we can put more about concrete or brick in it. You know, everybody drives by, they call this one, they call that one, you know. I get more calls than I don't get calls. You know, we've been in the telephone pole business since 1948, and they get people come by because they drive the window, they have their windows down, they call, you know, the Board of Health, Alan Perry, and complain they can smell the tar from the poles. We've had them there since 1967 that I can remember, you know what I'm saying? At 55 miles an hour going by the
They're
track, if
so
they can smell,
impacted now.
you know, if they can smell that, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You're never gonna tell what's next. That's why we used to have the poles by the street, you know, and then we had to move them. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? You know?
All right. Anything else? Okay, we do not have a DEP. Have you had a chance to review the line at all?
No, no, not in the field, but in their report. I mean,
You're
I don't have any,
comfortable?
right.
Okay.
And most of the area, I mean, it's basically, it's adjacent to, you know, if that wasn't already developed before, maybe, but
Yep,
I don't have an issue with that.
okay. All right, so in absence of a DEP file number,
You gotta continue.
are we gonna have to deal with National Heritage on this too, or
Well, they have 30
Natural
days.
Heritage?
They send yeah, do we have the copy of the notification that you mailed it?
I do not have that documentation, and I'm not certain that it actually has been made, so during this period, I will find that.
Okay, right, because.
Because that takes 30 days.
Right.
We can't vote on it for that 30 days.
Right, right. So. you
My
wanna make
question
sure-
is, do we continue it for 2 weeks, or do we continue it for a month?
Well, if it has not been mailed, it will be, we need 30 days from the date that they mail it.
Okay.
So if it hasn't been mailed, then.
And by virtue of our enforcement order, we have control over the site
Right.
anyways. Okay. So we'll go to 30 days, October 7th,
November.
November 7th?
This is already October.
You got something right.
That's gonna be.
On TV, she said that.
There's only one meeting.
Yeah, that's kind of tight for 30 days.
Yeah.
No, so I would
The first meeting in December?
First reading.
give you some
Well, we have
time.
second meeting.
No, we only
They
have
have 30
131.
days, it doesn't necessarily.
Well, we only have to know that it's been mailed out
Right.
and 30 days has passed. So we
Yeah.
can do October 7th if you can mail it tomorrow.
November's.
November 7th.
All right.
All right.
You gotta do mail a copy of the notice intent to them.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Motion to continue to
Okay.
November 7th?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
So-
Imagine that, even Dave agreed.
Jumpy.
Okay. All right, so just start that weekly reports as of now, though.
Fax it,
Email
you
it
can
to,
email it.
email it to Gail.
Email is probably,
Yeah, and it's online.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Right here.
Took my book already. So
Put
efficient.
it, that one,
Agenda.
and this one.
We,
Okay, notice of intent for Douglas King Builders has been, they called on Monday afternoon. They're not ready to be heard. Will probably be on the October 17th meeting.
So does that mean we'll probably put them on the agenda?
Probably.
Maybe.
They're just working,
Sort of
I have
depends
to have
on whether they
everything
can
by
figure it
Friday.
out or not.
okay, 5th, by noon time. They did get their abutters list approved this week, so hopefully they will have everything. They just sent me at 4:30 this afternoon the notice
Yeah, okay.
of advertising, so.
And know what a tear sheet is?
I hope so. I've sent them instructions again.
And,
And it's up to them to bring it in, not us.
yes, and they're supposed to, delineate what they did with the delineation of the bank of Taunton River, is that they use the GIS map. You can't do that with the definition of a bank, because 310 CMR 10 is very specific on the critical of, the critical methods for identifying, says the first observable break in slope or the mean annual high water mark, okay? Well, You can't do that on Mass GIS.
No.
And Mass GIS specifically says you can't use,
You cannot use
Yeah.
it.
There's a disclosure right on it.
yeah,
They use it.
so,
Okay.
all right, so that was, so we sent them a correspondence saying that you needed to delineate the bank of Taunton River the way it's supposed to be. And then we'll go take a look at it.
Okay, back to the informal. Well, we have the continued public hearing for the wetland protection bylaw and regulations. Did we pick a date for that?
Nobody has.
Does anyone know their schedules for November? Let's start with Gail. Vacation time?
Yep.
I'm sure.
Day before Thanksgiving.
Okay. That wouldn't be a good week anyways.
No, we don't even have a meeting that day because it is the day before Thanksgiving. Nobody's gonna.
Okay.
I would bet we're not here the 12th, unless you want to do something on the 14th of November.
That will be a problem for me. The November 14th will be a problem.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the whole month of November will be a problem.
Azu would request that we have this meeting on December 24th.
Okay by me. Give me a-
I'm not here. I'm not here.
Do something in December.
Yeah, I mean, we've missed November's town meeting, so it's not gonna happen.
Right, so we're not going to be ready for, yeah.
So let's table it till the first meeting in December,
Sounds good.
continue it to the first meeting in December, and then we can discuss.
And then don't put any other hearings on that night then.
Okay.
Okay.
The only problem with that is we're only gonna have one in November.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if something comes in, then if we have to table it, then we can, but
Yeah.
at least we're not continuing it every meeting until then.
If we don't make the November, what's our next opportunity?
Spring.
Spring.
January. Oh, I mean the.
May town meeting.
May town meeting. You gotta really shoot for that.
Yeah.
Gotta get it in by the end of April, probably.
Actually, you gotta have the selectmen look at it in March.
They have to get it, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can get it, if we can get it completed and hammered out by
End of
the end of
January.
January, give them the month of February to look at it.
Right.
That should work. Okay.
Is that-
Get-
Hold a public hearing on it in
So that's going to,
March.
will require a couple of meetings, right?
Oh, yeah, probably. Probably January and February.
Is there any other
Get
evening
everything
that
hammered
people
out.
can meet? Yeah, we can-
Tuesday night would work for me if you wanna do it an alternate night.
That's not,
okay.
Tuesday's fine for me, too.
If
It's
I,
not for you?
no, I work.
Okay.
I work. My one night that I
We're
work.
retired.
I am. So
you work Tuesday nights, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tuesday nights and Wednesday mornings.
He's a retired
That's
school
my-
teacher.
That's my work week.
We would need John.
I'm done. I said goodbye to everybody today. See you next week.
Huh? Well,
What are you teaching?
if it's a Tuesday night, I
It's
work
adult education.
Tuesday
Oh, is
night,
it?
so
Yeah.
it's like,
GED.
that wouldn't
What subject?
be an
Yes,
issue
well,
for me.
Actually, are we even able to get in here on Tuesday nights? That's,
I call-
You
We don't have
wouldn't
to come
be
in here.
Career
But you could do it in the
education.
conservation
really?
office,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe you can help Bill.
Oh, the conference room
Just to
across
find
the
a
hall,
job.
or downstairs.
You need to talk
And
to
I work
council.
Tuesday 6 to 8. When I don't do conservation.
Whatever you do, don't do it on Tuesday between 4 and 6, because then she'd really be mad at us.
I would give up my supper for you.
No, you wouldn't. Not that supper. Okay, so we're gonna continue it to, motion to continue to,
December, the
What?
first meeting in December, which will be December
5.
5th. So who's making that motion?
Motion to continue our bylaw meeting till the 5th of December.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will go back to informal. We have a report from Bill Reynolds and Kevin Moriera. Either one of you want to?
I'll defer to my esteemed colleague.
And I may defer back. I forget something.
Government at its best.
What
I'm
you,
right behind you, Ken.
what, were you both sleeping?
We actually stayed the whole time. We were the last ones out of the room.
Actually, we're the only ones who paid attention, I think.
I think there were a lot of people that walked out,
Yeah,
correct?
they were. They were upset.
Yeah.
A lot of people were upset.
Why were they upset?
Well, from what we gathered, it's Army Corps of Engineers project. And once the government takes hold, the town of Raynham, for the most part, has no say in anything that goes on that property, on the construction phase, other than
Kevin, turn the mic around.
other than the fire department, because they have to,
Protect it.
they have to protect it, and they gotta make sure all the supplies, for the water supplies and suppression systems are put in properly. Other than that, though, the town of Raynham would not, from what I gathered, really does not have a say. We would not have a say, really, I don't, oh, well, we would. Because we fall under the Wetlands Protection Act.
They still have to, they still have to abide by the wetlands protection.
That's it.
Right.
But they don't have to come in before a meeting or anything.
No, they don't do a notice of intent,
No.
they don't do anything.
But they,
Because the gentleman came down to the office and asked if, there were files or anything like that.
We have no say
And
in
he
any
said,
project?
I said, you could come in and talk to the commission, and he says, no, we don't do that.
Yes. We can still enforce rules, but they have their own process, because they're the government, that they
Government's
follow
better.
through.
So they'll just fill in the wetlands?
The government is exempt from
recognize
their
more
own
wetlands
rules.
than we do.
Right.
they still have to abide by the
Right, they recognize,
federal
for
wetlands
example,
protection.
for example, under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, of isolated land subject to flooding, even if it's got wetlands vegetation, it will be called isolated wetlands. But under federal regulations, they recognize it as a functional wetlands.
Okay, here's a question for you. What is it? ANRAD on that property? The property in question, we have an ANRAD dated
No, we have an RDA.
an RDA.
We have an RDA, and then we have a determination.
So we have a determination which included a wetland line.
What does the determination say? Okay, so all it says is that you review the wetlands line and approve it, that's it.
Now, what's the date on that? Should be January of '07.
January 9, 07.
Okay. Where are we at on permanent extension acts and stuff like that?
Valid through the 2014.
Okay, so the wetland line that was approved is still,
It's still in the wetlands line.
Now, what they did talk about is actually, instead of the usual, off of the edge of the Taunton River, of coming back 100, they're coming back 300 meters of a buffer. They've actually increased it by 3 times.
problem with this property, and this is why I asked the question, is this field, which I'm more than sure they want to
It's a wet
use,
meadow.
it's all a flagged line that's approved and it's an existing line. So whether they reflag it or not, we already have a line in force on this property.
Right, but that only just establishes jurisdiction, though. It's not saying that if the flag is more restrictive, then you go with what the flag. If yours is more restrictive.
But if they're not coming in front of us,
Yeah, no, but you still can talk to them.
We do have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for an
Environmental assessment.
assessment. Well, we can comment on stuff like that, and we can also comment on the riverbank, we can also comment on,
Noise pollution,
Noise.
traffic pollution.
we can add anything to
It
that.
has to be into Maryland by the 18th,
Yes, it was the original
right?
30 days.
intention letter, they sent us out September the 19th. We have 1 month to file, to reply back with an environmental assessment. So that's something that we need to get on real quick. If not, we'll lose our window to get in our 2 cents, pretty much. We, right now, are the only, pretty much, department in the town that is able to put their 2 cents in.
Then I guess I would make a motion that we submit a letter saying
So that's showing it.
we already have an existing
Wetlands.
wetland delineation of this property.
Which is
Which they
in
have.
force.
Which is still valid.
Which is still valid until 2014.
Now, what I'm not sure of is, they had talked about whatever project they were gonna do out of that, all the, I don't know how many acres, is it 25 acres out of there, 35?
That was
30, 34.
I think they had talked about condensing what they need to
28
do
plus.
down to, is it 16 or 18 acres that they're actually gonna be physically using
There's not 16 or 18 acres here.
of usable land? So,
Reserve. They are going
It's-
to
It's a maintenance facility for,
maintenance, it's
Medical?
a reserve center, with units will be drilling on drill weekends. Plus, it will actually be a regional maintenance shop for all units in the South Shore to bring their equipment for annual services.
They're usually very sensitive to,
I mean, the basic work areas.
Oh, I know the government,
And a little bit
in
of
following the
this.
rules, they're very good. In following the realtor who picks their sites, they might not be very
And
good.
we might lose
It's a great concept. I've actually emailed back the planning board, and I've let them know that if anybody that was here that day, or anybody from the conservation board would like to go visit the Reserve Center in Brockton on West Chestnut Street, that actually
Yeah.
abuts conservation.
It does.
I've actually spoken to the facility coordinator there and got us a green light to go in on a tour, to actually see, that's probably the newest Army Corps of Engineers project that has been completed about 8 months ago, and that's
That was just a refurb.
that was a rehab building, but they did have a lot of environmental concerns with their storage of oils and lubricants and containment areas. So they actually did a very good job there doing that. So if anybody would like to head down and see that, and actually see a project by the Army Corps of Engineers that abuts the wetlands, and also see what a reserve center will look like, so we could have a
is this gonna
feel.
be a similar configuration?
They said that this one here, if I'm not mistaken, was gonna be a 1-story, but I haven't seen a 1-story reserve center in a long time. They're usually 2. But I do have that email in. I know they were checking with the Board of Selectmen to see what direction they wanted to take, if they even wanted to go see that center in Brockton to get an idea of what would be on Church Street if the government did supersede and get their way.
Square footage wise, how much could they fill?
5,000
5,000 no matter what.
on our state regulations.
Do they follow state regulations?
No, they follow
They
federal.
follow
Federal.
federal regulations.
But what I'm saying is federal wetlands,
It's
actually, it's
It's
more.
more stringent than us,
Gotcha.
so. It's gonna be a tight
But what is
property.
interesting though is if it's an Army Corps project, Army Corps will be approving Army Corps project, because wetlands filling at the federal level is regulated by the Army Corps.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So it's almost.
The fox getting,
Yeah,
house.
it's almost a double-edged sword. You got the Army Corps saying, here's the project, and then you got Army Corps saying, hey, we're gonna approve the project, and at the same time, so.
I think our
Well, that's why I
recourse-
wanted to know about this line.
Right, the only recourse I think we have is to respond to the EA with our wetlands concern,
Right.
our traffic
Right.
concern, or any of the concerns that we have
Well,
for
we
the
can,
town.
we should, conservation will only be, if there's a natural heritage issues, wildlife habitat, wetlands, BVW.
And that is stuff that we need
That-
to put into the environmental
Right, but
assessment.
we cannot be writing about traffic, because that doesn't come
Well,
under.
we could, though. He indicated that we could say something about that as other concerns.
Right, but that will come from like the
That's
planning.
the plan,
But the
that's-
planning board isn't going to get a chance to issue.
We're the
any
only
document.
ones, we're the only department in town that has a voice right now in this project.
Well,
So
actually,
he suggested that we add everything that.
Whatever we need to add.
Cool, we'll talk about traffic in terms of potential spills, vehicle spills and.
The biggest concern is the roadway is just too small, entering that site.
I mean, I don't think,
The only way that it would get stopped is if the cost is prohibitive in what they're willing to spend to build this out.
And as of right now,
I
their
don't-
actual
I don't-
project is
I don't quite
based on the
understand.
extension of the sewer, which is not even in yet.
Yeah,
So
that's a done deal, so.
I don't quite understand why the Board of Selectmen or planning can't, or police can't comment on traffic, why it has to be up to us.
Because because it is a government project, they don't have to get any input from the town.
But because when you think about it, if they can invoke our national security,
Sure.
and that trumps everything.
But also, if this were not in an area of our concern, then no one would have any input.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we got input simply because it's
Because of the, actually because. of the
within our
riv-
purview.
Because of the river.
Yes,
front.
yes,
Right.
yes.
I mean, actually, did my motion get voted on?
Which one?
All right, I made a motion that we send comments to whoever,
Respond to the EA.
that we already have an existing RDA in place on the property.
Okay. Anything else to go with this?
I just say that
I think maybe we make a motion that Azu drafts a letter.
circulated.
Yeah.
Expressing the concerns that came up.
Are you all to turn around and put all your concerns in an email and send them to me or Azu, which
We
you
can
have
just
on
tag
your-
them on.
And then have Azu review it all and then turn around and do the letter.
And do a
Because
mass.
you were both there at the meeting,
Right.
so you
Okay,
have
so-
more of an idea of what's
Yeah,
going
that
on.
sounds like a.
Let's, everyone get their concerns in to Gail by
Before
Monday morning, so that
Monday.
Azu can
Uh,
peddle
Holiday.
it.
Monday's a holiday.
Friday,
So Tuesday morning.
Come in on Tuesday.
She's on
The day
vacation
off.
Tuesday.
Friday?
Tuesday and Wednesday off.
How about this Friday?
But you can, are you coming in?
Everybody
Yeah,
get their
You have
concerns
Wednesday
to
off?
Tuesday,
Azu.
Wednesday off. But you can still come in and go in the office.
Yeah, so
So-
give them the conservation email address,
Email it to the conservation,
not to Gail.
yeah.
So
Both
what
of
you
us.
want, so what you want to do is give them send everybody email as a reminder,
Yep,
and then ask them to respond to all.
Yeah, if you send a note, you can add to that and send it
Okay,
back.
okay.
And then I can
That way it
look
gets
at
to the right
conservation email when I
Yep.
go in on Tuesday.
yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds like a good plan.
Sorry, I gotta use the time.
You must authorize that time off a couple of years ago.
She's well worth it. She deserves her time off.
Here we go.
What do you want, magic markers now?
It's payback for the
You
crayon.
better get you better get the washable ones. Okay, anybody have anything
All I have
else?
to do is remember her name.
You gentlemen got the Dora Pine, we were discussing the Dora Pine Trail.
Yep.
Okay, because there was issue on it. They were in the, believe it or not, there was in the conservation office. Brian Glavin is the one that told me about it. And his father had gone over there to do it, to look at it, and Highway had gone in. I guess Tommy from Highway Department goes in twice a year, when warm weather starts, and he just goes right through the whole trail. And Brian said he's been doing that for years now. So just as a note, that is being taken care of.
So it's twice a year.
Yeah, so the other issue is, a young man came in tonight, he's a Boy Scout. He's going for his Eagle badge, and he wants to do some work, over at Hewitt's Pond. But I told him to put everything in writing, and, then I would send it out to you guys so you can, take a look at it and see. I told him he needed to tell us exactly what he wants to do, where he wants to do it.
Did you mention to him the other project that,
I did not, because I wanted to see what he's putting into writing first.
okay.
And what his idea is, and then, depending on what it is, then we can turn around and maybe direct him in another direction if he needs to go that way.
I don't even know that we actually have access to Hewitt's
Hewitt's
Pond.
Pond, I know.
Oh, Hewitt's Pond.
Hewitt's Pond, over
Okay,
on,
I'm
by
thinking,
Rogers Way.
I'm thinking Gushy.
No, over, He didn't completely say what he wanted to do, but
Okay.
I told him that's the way it has to be done, is put in writing and go
I
from
wonder if
there.
he wants to put a trail in.
Yeah. So, but those are the only two issues, two things that came up.
Dave had a concern tonight about Rogers Way. I called Roger Stolte. And he called Lopes. Lopes called just before our meeting, and they are sending someone out there to install hay bales at the bottom of that slope that you were
I
concerned
don't know
with,
how
to
they're
at
gonna
least
do
get,
it.
well, at least try to get some sort of protection in there this
The
morning.
hay bales will be
Tonight.
floating. How do you hay bale a 6-foot bank, straight bank?
I don't know.
Staple them
With a lot of straw.
I just concerned about the fact that we need to be careful that when the guy that built the house, I can't think of his name.
We don't want to, well, I said to them,
Well, we just gotta be careful that if they do any interference on that replication area, that we don't hold him responsible.
correct.
It's Roger.
Yep, and I said that to Lopes. That replication area goes, you got another problem,
Yeah.
so. All right, anything else? There's one more motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. So voted.
We're done.
Opposed?